Hi there, it's Maria Luz. I'm an astrologer, certified hypnotist, and psychic medium of Maria Luz Online, and I'm here with your Astro Energy Report for August 29th. I do have an announcement about my website. I'll be brief, but the coupon code that I put in the show notes, AstroHip, that's for my listeners of my podcast and viewers of YouTube, is now valid on all the services and the products. And I've created gift cards for mediumship, astrology, and astro hypnosis. And I also have options for written personalized astrology reports too. So check those out. I also have a confession. I don't know that I'm suited to do these quick snippets like this, especially when I feel into significant themes. So I'm splitting up the themes of this week between this week and next. But don't worry, because the energy drivers are really the same because they are so major. So, energy drivers for this week. Mercury stations direct in Leo. That happened yesterday. Venus, just entering Libra, makes a trine with Pluto in Aquarius today. And then Pluto re enters Capricorn and at the same time is in a trine with Uranus in Taurus, this time both in Earth signs. And that's on September 1st. Also, on that day, Uranus turns retrograde, and then we have a new moon in Virgo on Monday the 2nd. So, how are things out there? Did you feel that shift when Mercury ended its retrograde period? And likely we're still feeling the effects of maybe any messes that were made. Or we may be seeing things more clearly, things that we stumbled over while Mercury was in retrograde. So I have one theme to discuss this week and then two related themes next week. And as we have the first eclipse on the Virgo-Pisces axis since 2016 happening on September 17th, I think it's wise just to slow down a bit and do some pre-work. And so theme one is Venus, Pluto, and Uranus. And there have been aspects and reciprocal rulership swaps over one another for these three that indicate that they're having a pretty serious conversation. And so with Pluto changing signs in retrograde and Uranus moving into its annual retrograde, there's this emphasis of whatever it is they want us to individually reflect upon in order to raise it to collective consciousness, because that retrograde is often a time to go inward and do that review. And it also seems significant that a few weeks ago, Venus made, or maybe it was just last week, I'm in the time warp. Venus made these tense aspects to the other outer planets and essentially brought that energy with her to the aspects that are made more recently to Uranus, which were a trine, and to Neptune, which was an opposition before making this trine to Pluto. And the ones that happened on that big day, I think it was August 19th, those were Saturn and Jupiter. So now, she's making this tour through all the outer planets, and that seems very significant. So we can break down the energies of this current triangle, if you want to think of it that way, between Venus, Pluto, and Uranus to get a sense of exactly what they may be discussing or having this significant conversation about. And then next week's themes will pull in those other aspects that I mentioned that Venus made earlier to Jupiter and Saturn. And of course, there are entire like big doorstop books that are written about each of these planets and their energy. So just keep in mind that this is a very distilled version. So Venus is the ruler of Taurus and Libra. Venus presides over what we feel via our senses and the resources that we have available to us, what we place value in, what we call beautiful, and how we function in a relationship. And then Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius and is known as the rebel. And it's often um, rebelling on behalf of the underdog. And it brings instantaneous insight. It's sudden change for the purpose of getting the individual or the collective on the path for evolution to the highest good. And it's associated with that, with electricity. So again, often those kind of light bulb moments that are sudden intuition. And then Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio and is known for intensity and power and transformation, and is associated with metamorphosis and death and rebirth. And with where these energies overlap is really deep and rich territory. And I do see hints from the other major themes that I'll talk about next week. But for now, I propose that because Venus has been the catalyst and as the fastest moving planet of these three, it may indicate the thread that weaves together what is being highlighted for us. So I'm looking to Venus first for this conversation today. And Venus has recently been in the sign of Virgo and is now leading the personal planets through the zodiac. So she's ahead of the others, you know, Mercury and Mars, and also brings this emphasis to the new moon in the sign of Virgo that's happening on September 2nd because of the fact that she's just been through there, made some big aspects, um, even as she was leaving, with making an opposition to Neptune. So pay attention to the intentions that you set, if any, on Monday, the new moon, and then especially the motivations underneath your intentions. And, you know, perhaps going back to this theme of those three planets, thinking about the energies I just described in brief, maybe it's about wealth and how it's used. That would be Venus, or more precisely, greed and power. That's more Pluto. And why we as humans have allowed such disparities between the rich and poor. And that's Uranus. Like, why have we allowed that to amplify? Um, and so, you know, instead of calling out the greed of these CEOs and people like that, those of us who are maybe in the middle of that divide between, that's huge now, between rich and poor, we we instead of calling it out, we seem to have like kind of mimicked, maybe in small ways, what's happening at the top. And and when I say that, we maybe do that by, you know, buying those enticing yet cheaply made material goods. And sometimes those have questionable labor practices, but they also certainly use up a lot of resources to move them and ship them around. Um, and then also food. Food has become so cheap and we're so removed with what does it take to raise and slaughter an entire cow? And but instead people, you know, can eat hamburger meat really cheaply and buy it at Walmart or whatever. And know that I'm right there with you, like in the line at Home Goods and Trader Joe's for these things. So I do feel this as well. I'm not just preaching here. Um, but all of this harms or depletes what Venus means for us to protect and to use wisely. And that would be, you know, all of the resources that are available to us, both natural and man-made. And I want to leave you to ponder this information with the Sabian symbol for the new moon, because it literally marries these three planetary energies. So it is, and again, remember for the Sabian symbols, we round up a degree. So this is the Sabian symbol for 12 degrees Virgo, even though the new moon happens at 11 degrees Virgo. So it is a bride with her veil snatched away, disclosure of the hidden fruitions of nature to him who dares and who loves, full appreciation of life, penetration. And with that, I will leave you to ponder these things. Send any questions or comments to my email info@marialuz.online, and we will pick up the themes that are related next week. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you. Have a beautiful day.